Hi everybody, I wanted to do a quick video on the 7 degrees of freedom for growth. So a big part of what we do is helping dental practices grow. The pressures to actually be a bigger business with greater revenue are kind of more important than ever because the economies of scale just aren't there in the same way anymore. So for example, 10 years ago, you could probably be pretty profitable about 800k, and that's why corporates would buy practices of that size. Then it crept up to 1 million, then 1.2, and now many of the corporates are actually out of acquisition because they're really struggling to make these practices profitable. So if you're running a dental practice, you do want to be growing it in some ways, and I do find that some of the advice out there is quite dogmatic. And I think that's because actually what the audience does want to hear is stuff that's kind of simple, maybe a bit controversial, when actually it's a bit more nuanced, is what I'd say, and it's actually different for every practice. But this framework is one way of looking at growth in your business, and kind of seeing where you are today, where you're working, what's working, what isn't, and where your priorities should be. So it comes from this 1991 book, The Alchemy of Growth. Pretty old. Enron's an example of a really great business in there, so that's obviously changed. It's by McKinsey & Co, but the framework's really quite straightforward. So I'll talk through it first of all, and then you can start thinking about how relevant it is for your business. So number one, the first thing you should be doing when you're looking to grow your business is sell existing products and services to existing customers. So I think this is not done as well as it could be in most businesses actually. Loads of money is always being left on the table. Recalls aren't as good as they should be. Treatment plans aren't as thorough as they should be. Communication skills aren't as good as they could be. So you've got this footfall of people coming through the practice that are coming to you because they want solutions for their dentistry, and it's your job to give it to them. Ross and I often joke about the fact that we've never actually been offered teeth whitening, and we're now in this kind of standoff with our respective dentists, kind of waiting for someone to say, do you want your teeth whitened? Because I'm pretty embarrassed to admit that I do. I work in dentistry, it'd be good to have better teeth. But there you go. So there's all this money being left on the table. You should be actively thinking about different ways of you getting more of that cash in, to be perfectly blunt about it. So that's step one. That some people might call that internal marketing. It's really, really important. Lead management is huge. I spend most of my life speaking with clients about getting good data about their lead management, and kind of approaching it from a point of view that there's always more you could be doing as a business. So, my background in kind of telephony and being a sales manager and stuff, that was the phrase I always had in my head. What more can I do to get this over the line or get more cash in before the end of the week? So it's a huge opportunity. You should be working on it all the time, but it doesn't stop there. So the next layer is new customers, existing products and services for new customers. So what this means is acquiring customers that don't know about you yet. So this would be where you're looking at external marketing. So a lot of people say marketing doesn't work. It's kind of objectively not true at all. It's like me saying a golf club doesn't work because I'm rubbish at golf. It's just I'm rubbish at golf. Golf clubs are fine. I'm the problem. So if marketing hasn't worked for you, I actually don't want to say it's your fault, because there's also there's this gap. So there's bad agencies. There's agencies that aren't very good. There's good ones, but there's also this information gap between the agency and the customer. And often the customer feels like they understand marketing because on the face of it is very simple. You're trying to spend money to drive more engagement with your business, and get more people over the front door. So it kind of, that you're actually talking two different languages, you don't know it. And I think a lot of marketing agency services kind of just regress to this point of they're never going to get it. We will try, we'll send them their monthly report. They're going to get hacked off after 12 months and leave us. It's why the average life cycle of a marketing agency client is about 12 months across agencies. Not the case at Hive, it's much longer, even some going back kind of 12 years. So it's set up to fail, which is why it feels like external marketing can't work. But for example, I've got a single site that generates over 300 grand a month from just Google paid ads. That's possible, but they're Tiger Woods. They're not me when it comes to golf. So you've got to figure it out. Are you doing it? Are you doing it properly? Are you doing everything on your end to convert? Yeah, and it's also worth saying you can burn loads of money there. So I'd say start really small, figure out what can work. The next layer, number 3, new products and services. So often people might look at this first because they'll say, oh, we should bring in an endodontist or an implantologist. It's not that it's a bad idea, it's just kind of working through this logical thing. You take your low-hanging fruit, you start driving more customers, then you start developing different offers within the company structure. So we all kind of understand why that's relevant, and it's certainly worth doing. So you don't do it as the job is the recruitment, the job is then bringing them on board. How do we get them busy internally and externally? And then how do we make them profitable? The next layer is new value delivery approaches. So this would probably be an example of, a lot of people are trying to figure out how to integrate therapists much more into their offer. I think it's a great idea. I actually think it's probably really important to be looking at doing in the future as margins get further squeezed. But that's a huge thing kind of coming up. But again, low-hanging fruit, it might not be the first thing on your list from a growth perspective. Next layer, new geographies. So one of our best performing articles ever, and we still get clients from it, is Are Two Practices Better Than One? So I think Ross wrote it in 2016 or something. And it's basically often people, rather than fix the business they've got today, they buy another one. So it's like bigger, but you've got zero economies of scales between the two sites. So you've actually just got double the problems, probably still no margin, loads of debt. So I'm a big advocate for acquiring additional sites. However, you really need to have built these competencies before you do it. Unless you're absolutely nailing it from a sales perspective, unless you know what marketing channels work for you, unless you know your clinical structure, don't be trying to buy another business because you haven't kind of created the competencies to layer on that business and to make better margins from it. The next layer is number 6, new industry structure. So might not be relevant for everyone, but this could be like someone consolidating different businesses that go together. So for example, if someone's got a load of cash behind them, they might buy an accountancy firm, marketing agency, an HR firm, and kind of cross-sell all the things to them. So it might not be relevant for you at this point, but it could be relevant in the future if you've kind of built quite a nice kind of micro corporate. And the next layer is opening up in new competitive arenas. I'm really guilty of this one. I have got a few successful businesses, but I've started a few and bought a few in areas that I don't fully understand, or I thought I understood, but actually Dunning-Kruger's very real. So success in one area doesn't necessarily mean success in another, even though the principles might be similar. So again, you'd have to be absolutely smashing all of these before I'd say, oh, it's the right time for you to kind of set up a television channel or something. It's like such a right turn. So even if you're a really successful business person who's a very good leader and got all these things locked in, doesn't necessarily translate across industries. But it's always good to look at other opportunities as well. So hopefully that's been helpful for you. Granted, it's not the solution by any means, but hopefully what I'm trying to illustrate here is there's a huge amount of nuance when it comes to growth and a huge amount of specificity to your business. So kind of knee-jerk responses that, pay-per-click advertising doesn't work. It's just not true, or, mail drops don't work. They do, but it's probably not the first thing you should do, and they're really expensive, and they have to be much bigger than you expect. So all of these things can work, but only when you've built the structure to capture more of the value. So kind of follow this list, maybe even go through and just kind of rank yourself, particularly on the first 4, I'd say, kind of rank yourself across them, 1 to 10, how well are you doing? If you want any help doing it, give us a call, we'd love to help. Cheers.